A chosen woman is not defined by perfection, but by awareness. She carries depth, intuition, and spiritual sensitivity that sets her apart in a world that thrives on distraction. Yet, it is precisely this sensitivity that makes her vulnerable. What takes years to build, clarity, peace, confidence, and alignment, can be dismantled in a matter of days if she unknowingly feeds the wrong habits. Destruction does not always come in loud, dramatic forms. Sometimes it arrives quietly, disguised as comfort, relief, or just one more time. The most dangerous addictions are not always substances. Many are behaviors and emotional patterns that slowly sever a chosen woman from her power. This message is not meant to shame or frighten you. It is meant to protect you. When you are chosen, your life carries weight. Your energy influences rooms you enter, conversations you speak into, and futures you have not yet seen. That is why certain traps are set specifically for you. These addictions move fast. They drain discernment, blur intuition, and weaken spiritual defenses before you even realize what is happening. Awareness is your shield. Read this not with fear, but with honesty. What you recognize, you can release. What you avoid, you can outgrow. Addiction to emotional chaos. Emotional chaos is one of the fastest and most silent destroyers of a chosen woman because it disguises itself as intensity, passion, and depth. It often begins innocently, replaying old wounds in the mind, revisiting painful memories under the illusion of processing, or gravitating toward emotionally charged situations that keep the nervous system on constant alert. For many chosen women, chaos feels familiar because it mirrors an upbringing shaped more by survival than by safety. When calm was rare or unpredictable, the body learned to equate turbulence with normalcy. As a result, peace can feel suspicious, boring, or even threatening. The absence of drama may trigger discomfort because the nervous system has been conditioned to expect instability. This is how chaos becomes addictive, not because it feels good, but because it feels known. Within days of living in emotional chaos, the body begins to pay the price. Stress hormones remain elevated, sleep becomes shallow, and mental clarity deteriorates. The intuition, which requires stillness and regulation to function clearly, becomes clouded. Decision-making weakens because choices are now being made from emotional reactivity rather than inner wisdom. A chosen woman operating in chaos may confuse anxiety with intuition, urgency with purpose, and emotional intensity with love. This leads to repeated cycles of misaligned choices, choosing people, environments, and paths that reinforce instability rather than growth. Chaos also fragments identity. When emotions are constantly swinging between extremes, it becomes difficult to stay anchored in one's values, boundaries, and self-trust. A chosen woman may start abandoning her center just to manage the emotional noise around her. Over time, this creates internal disconnection, a feeling of being everywhere and nowhere at once. Creativity dulls, spiritual sensitivity weakens, and the body remains in a constant state of exhaustion. Chaos drains life force quickly because it requires constant vigilance, emotional labor, and mental replay. Most dangerously, emotional chaos convinces a chosen woman that stability equals stagnation. She may fear that choosing peace means settling, losing depth, or becoming invisible. This is a lie rooted in unhealed survival patterns. Stability is not lifeless, it is powerful. It creates the foundation for clarity, discernment, and aligned action. A chosen woman thrives in regulated emotional states because they allow her to access her full intelligence, intuition, and spiritual authority. When chaos is released, energy returns, focus sharpens, purpose becomes clear. To break this addiction, a chosen woman must learn to tolerate peace long enough for her nervous system to recalibrate. She must allow calm to feel unfamiliar without labeling it wrong. Emotional maturity is not the absence of feeling. It is the ability to feel without being ruled by turbulence. Chaos disconnects a chosen woman from her center, but stability restores her power. Peace is not passive. It is the ground from which true strength rises. Addiction to validation and external approval. Addiction to validation and external approval is one of the most deceptive traps a chosen woman can fall into because it masquerades as confidence, social success, or likability. It begins subtly, checking reactions, monitoring responses, feeling uplifted by praise and deflated by silence. Over time, attention, compliments, likes, and affirmation become emotional currency. When worth becomes externally sourced, power quietly shifts outward. The chosen woman may not realize it at first, but she has begun outsourcing her identity to the opinions of others. What starts as appreciation turns into dependency. Within days of relying on external validation, self-expression becomes filtered. Choices are no longer made based on inner alignment, but on anticipated approval. A chosen woman may soften her truth, edit her boundaries, or suppress her intuition to remain palatable. She learns what is rewarded and unconsciously shapes herself to fit it. This is where the addiction becomes dangerous. Authenticity is slowly replaced with performance. The self becomes fragmented, who she is when alone versus who she becomes when seen. This internal split drains energy and creates deep confusion. Seeking validation also erodes self-respect. When approval is prioritized, disrespect is tolerated. Red flags are ignored, silence is endured. A chosen woman may stay in situations that diminish her because leaving would mean risking disapproval, rejection, or misunderstanding. Over time, self-betrayal accumulates. Each time she chooses being liked over being aligned, a small fracture forms in her self-trust. These fractures compound quickly, leaving behind anxiety, resentment, and emotional fatigue. The most painful consequence of validation addiction is that it never satisfies. External approval is fleeting and unstable because it depends on factors outside one's control. People change, attention fades, standards shift. When validation disappears, so does the sense of worth. This creates a cycle of chasing, posting more, giving more, shrinking more, hoping to regain the feeling of being chosen. But a chosen woman is not meant to be selected by the crowd, she is meant to select herself. True confidence is internal. It does not require witnesses. A chosen woman does not need universal understanding or admiration. She needs self-alignment. When she stands rooted in her truth, she becomes sovereign. Others may misunderstand her, project onto her, or resist her, but she remains intact. External validation may feel good, but it cannot replace self-approval. The damage of self-betrayal lingers far longer than the comfort of being liked. When a chosen woman withdraws her need for validation, her power returns immediately. Her voice strengthens, her boundaries clarify. Her presence becomes grounded rather than performative. Approval loses its grip and freedom replaces it. Alignment becomes the new reward, and unlike validation, it never abandons her. 3. Addiction to overgiving. Many chosen women are natural givers, nurturers, healers, and supporters. Their empathy runs deep, and their ability to sense the needs of others is highly developed. However, when giving becomes compulsive rather than conscious, it turns into self-abandonment. Addiction to overgiving often begins as generosity, but evolves into a pattern where worth is measured by sacrifice. The chosen woman may believe she is only valuable when she is useful, needed, or indispensable. This belief quietly teaches her to ignore her own limits. Within days of chronic overgiving, the body begins to show signs of depletion. Fatigue sets in, emotional patience shortens, and resentment begins to simmer beneath the surface. The mind becomes foggy, the spirit feels drained, and joy diminishes. Overgiving requires constantly scanning others while neglecting the self. Eventually, the chosen woman loses touch with her own needs, desires, and inner voice. She may not even recognize when she is exhausted because she has normalized depletion. This addiction is particularly dangerous because it attracts takers rather than partners. Those who benefit from overgiving rarely encourage balance. They grow accustomed to receiving without reciprocation. Over time, the chosen woman may find herself surrounded by people who rely on her energy but do not protect it. This imbalance reinforces the belief that love must be earned through sacrifice. Boundaries feel selfish. Rest feels undeserved. Saying no feels like failure. Overgiving also distorts identity. When a chosen woman is always pouring outward, she never receives the nourishment required to grow inward. Creativity dries up. Passion fades. The soul grows quiet. Resentment builds because the giving is no longer a choice. It is an obligation. This resentment often turns inward, manifesting as guilt or self-blame for feeling depleted. The cycle continues until burnout forces a reckoning. A chosen woman must understand that boundaries are not barriers, they are containers for sacred energy. Giving is only powerful when it flows from fullness. Sacrifice does not prove worth, alignment does. When she learns to give without abandoning herself, her relationships transform. Mutuality replaces exploitation. Respect replaces expectation. Energy returns. Overgiving does not make a chosen woman more lovable. It makes her more depleted. True service begins with self-honoring. Boundaries are not selfish, they are sacred agreements with the soul. When a chosen woman protects her energy, she preserves her power. 4. Addiction to escapism. Escapism is one of the most socially accepted addictions, yet it is deeply corrosive to a chosen woman's purpose. It often hides behind habits that appear harmless or even productive. Binge-watching, excessive sleeping, constant scrolling, daydreaming, substance use, or living primarily in fantasy. The danger is not rest or pleasure, the danger is avoidance. Escapism becomes addictive when it is used to numb discomfort instead of processing it. Rather than facing emotions, the chosen woman disappears into distraction. Within days of relying on escapism, emotional backlog begins to accumulate. Unprocessed feelings do not disappear, they wait. Anxiety, sadness, grief, and fear stack beneath the surface, creating emotional numbness. Intuition grows quiet because intuition requires presence. Purpose feels distant because purpose demands engagement with reality. The chosen woman may feel disconnected, unmotivated, or vaguely dissatisfied without understanding why. Escapism also distorts time. Hours vanish without nourishment or growth. Life begins to feel stalled. This creates shame, which then fuels more avoidance. The chosen woman may criticize herself for being unproductive while continuing to escape the discomfort of facing her truth. Over time, this cycle erodes self-trust. She begins to doubt her discipline, her clarity, and her calling. Spiritually, escapism severs alignment. A chosen woman is meant to engage consciously with her inner and outer world. Avoidance blocks lessons, delays healing, and repeats patterns. Rest is restorative because it replenishes energy. Escapism is destructive because it erases awareness. One strengthens, the other dissolves. Facing reality requires courage. It means sitting with discomfort long enough for insight to emerge. It means allowing emotions to move through rather than around. A chosen woman does not need to flee from her life. She needs to inhabit it fully. When she replaces escapism with presence, power returns quickly. Clarity sharpens. Direction emerges. Rest restores you. Escapism erases you. A chosen woman is designed to confront, integrate, and rise, not disappear. Presence is the gateway to purpose. 5. Addiction to toxic relationships. Toxic relationships are especially destructive for chosen women because they drain emotional, mental, and spiritual energy at an accelerated rate. This addiction often disguises itself as loyalty, compassion, patience, or unconditional love. A chosen woman may feel a deep pull toward wounded, chaotic, or emotionally unavailable individuals, believing her role is to heal, fix, or save them. This pattern is not rooted in love. It is rooted in misplaced responsibility. When a chosen woman confuses empathy with obligation, she becomes vulnerable to bondage disguised as connection. Within days of remaining in a toxic relationship, inner peace begins to erode. Confusion replaces clarity, anxiety replaces calm, self-doubt replaces confidence. The chosen woman may find herself overthinking conversations, walking on eggshells, and questioning her perceptions. Gaslighting, inconsistency, emotional manipulation, or neglect distort her sense of reality. She begins to doubt her intuition, the very compass meant to guide her. This erosion is subtle but rapid, and it weakens her discernment. Toxic relationships feed on imbalance. One gives excessively while the other consumes. Over time, the chosen woman becomes emotionally depleted, spiritually disconnected, and mentally exhausted. Her energy is constantly redirected toward managing someone else's instability. Instead of expanding into her purpose, she contracts into survival mode. Creativity diminishes, vision fades, life becomes reactive rather than intentional. This addiction persists because toxicity can feel familiar. If love was once associated with chaos, inconsistency, or emotional labor, the nervous system may interpret peace as absence. Healthy love may feel dull or undeserved. As a result, the chosen woman may unconsciously reject stability and chase intensity, mistaking anxiety for passion. This misinterpretation keeps her trapped in cycles of pain. The most dangerous aspect of toxic relationships is identity erosion. When a chosen woman remains too long in an environment that questions her worth, she begins internalizing those messages. She may shrink, silence herself, or accept less than she deserves. Her spiritual authority weakens because she is constantly explaining, justifying, or defending her existence. A chosen woman does not need chaos to feel alive, nor pain to feel loved. Love that costs her peace, self-respect, and alignment is not love, it is bondage. True love supports expansion, clarity, and safety. When a chosen woman releases toxic attachments, energy returns almost immediately. The mind clears, the body relaxes, the soul exhales. Leaving toxicity is not abandonment. It is self-rescue. A chosen woman honors her calling by choosing relationships that nourish rather than drain. Love should never require the sacrifice of the soul. 6. Addiction to control. Control often masquerades as responsibility, preparedness, or strength, but at its core, it is rooted in fear. Addiction to control manifests as micromanaging outcomes, obsessing over timelines, forcing clarity before it arrives, or trying to shape people and situations into predictable forms. For a chosen woman, this addiction is particularly heavy because her intuition is meant to guide her, not her anxiety. When control takes over, trust erodes. Within days of excessive control, the nervous system becomes overstimulated. Sleep is disrupted. The mind races. Anxiety tightens the body. Control demands constant vigilance, leaving no space for rest or receptivity. A chosen woman may feel burdened, tense, and disconnected from her spiritual flow. Instead of being guided, she feels responsible for everything and everyone. Control blocks alignment because it assumes distrust in divine timing and inner wisdom. When a chosen woman attempts to force outcomes, she often bypasses lessons meant to mature her. She may rush decisions, cling to what should be released, or resist necessary endings. This resistance creates friction, exhaustion, and disappointment. Spiritually, Control is the opposite of surrender. Surrender is not weakness, it is intelligence. It is the recognition that guidance exists beyond personal fear. A chosen woman is not meant to carry the weight of the universe. She is meant to move in cooperation with it. Control tightens the grip, trust opens the hands. The illusion of control promises safety, but delivers anxiety. The more one controls, the more fragile everything feels. Relationships suffer, creativity stalls, joy fades. The chosen woman may feel disconnected from miracles because miracles require openness, not force. When control is released, clarity returns, the body relaxes, the spirit realigns, trust allows intuition to speak, guidance becomes audible again. A chosen woman who learns to surrender does not lose power, she gains precision. She moves with grace rather than resistance. Control blocks miracles. Trust invites them. Alignment cannot be forced. It must be allowed. 7. Addiction to self-criticism. Harsh self-criticism is an internal addiction that quietly dismantles confidence, creativity, and self-trust. It often appears as discipline, humility, or motivation, but it is rooted in shame. A chosen woman addicted to self-criticism constantly judges, compares, and belittles herself, believing that harshness will produce growth. In reality, it produces paralysis. Within days of persistent negative self-talk, motivation collapses. Creativity shuts down, emotional energy drains, shame takes root. The inner voice becomes hostile rather than supportive. Instead of guiding growth, it punishes imperfection. This internal war weakens resilience and erodes courage. Self-criticism distorts perception. Achievements are minimized. Progress is ignored. Mistakes are magnified. A chosen woman may feel perpetually behind, inadequate, or unworthy, regardless of effort or success. This mindset creates chronic dissatisfaction and burnout. Spiritually, self-criticism separates a chosen woman from compassion. Growth does not require cruelty. Discipline can coexist with kindness. Correction can happen without condemnation. When the inner voice becomes abusive, alignment collapses. A chosen woman is not meant to be her own enemy. She is meant to be her own protector. The way she speaks to herself determines how she moves through the world. Compassion strengthens resilience. Encouragement fuels endurance. Replacing self-criticism with conscious self-respect restores power quickly. Confidence becomes grounded. Creativity flows. Progress accelerates. Growth becomes sustainable. Speak to yourself the way you would speak to someone you are meant to protect. That is where true strength lives. Addiction to busyness. Busyness is often praised as productivity, ambition, or dedication, but it can be a powerful form of avoidance. Addiction to busyness fills every moment with activity, leaving no space for reflection, stillness, or listening. For a chosen woman, this addiction is particularly dangerous because her guidance emerges in quiet. Within days of constant busyness, the body tightens, the mind scatters, the spirit disconnects, fatigue becomes normalized, presence disappears. Without stillness, clarity cannot surface, direction becomes blurred. Busyness prevents emotional processing. Feelings are postponed, questions remain unanswered, intuition is drowned out by noise. A chosen woman may appear accomplished yet feel disconnected, restless, or empty. Stillness is not laziness, it is alignment. Silence is not wasted time. It is where insight forms. A chosen woman requires moments of quiet to recalibrate her inner compass. Busyness blocks clarity. Stillness sharpens it. When activity slows, truth emerges. Direction becomes obvious. Purpose reconnects. Addiction to neglecting spiritual alignment. The most dangerous addiction for a chosen woman is disconnection from her spiritual foundation. When prayer, reflection, gratitude, and inner listening are replaced with distraction, pride, or noise, everything else destabilizes. Alignment is the anchor that holds identity steady. Within days of neglecting spiritual connection, discernment weakens. Old patterns resurface. Emotional confusion increases. Without alignment, decisions are reactive rather than guided. A chosen woman thrives when connected to her source. Spiritual alignment sharpens intuition, protects energy, and clarifies direction. Without it, life becomes fragmented. What a chosen woman aligns with determines what she attracts. Alignment is not optional, it is essential. When connection is restored, everything else realigns naturally. If this message reached you, it is not by accident. Awareness is a form of protection, and growth begins with honesty. You are not broken, you are becoming. Avoiding these traps does not make you perfect, it makes you intentional. This is the Woman of Light channel. If this message spoke to you, subscribe for more teachings meant to strengthen, protect, and elevate chosen women walking their path with courage. And if you received this message at the exact moment you needed it most, type 1111 in the comment section as a declaration of alignment and divine blessings. Thank you for watching.